Let's go across now to IS Bindra, who was the only one, it appears, or at least was in a minority in that meeting, who actually took on N. Srinivasan. Thanks very much, Mr. Bindra, for joining us. Now, you had earlier said, and I heard you on our channel, that you actually asked Mr. Srinivasan to resign, but I just interviewed Mr. Srinivasan on the phone, and he claims you never did any such thing.
Hello, Mr. Srinivasan says that, then I can say that he is short on truth, absolutely. Nothing more to add.
So you
If I can demand publicly on the channels, why shouldn't I demand in the meeting?
But what exactly did you say, Mr. Bindra?
Hello?
What exactly did you say in asking for his resignation, asking to him to step aside till the probe?
I said that this will be an eyewash. Public will not be satisfied by his setting aside for 1 week or 4 weeks. That he should resign, and if he is exonerated both by the investigation team and the inquiry being conducted, then he can be brought back into the board. He has another year after September, he can be brought back.
So Mr. Bindra,
I am not going to resign, and he was supported vehemently by Mr. Jaitley and Shukla and the 4-member team in sitting in Delhi.
So you say, you are standing by the position you took, Mr. Bindra, that you categorically asked him to resign in that meeting.
Do I have to repeat? I have enough credibility with the media, I am sure.
You do, sir, you do. It's just that N. Srinivasan was challenging this version, that's why. Go ahead, Rika.
Mr. Bindra, you have been a president of BCCI in the past. Is there a provision for an interim president? If not, would you say that that this committee has changed BCCI's constitution to have an interim president?
Informal meeting and illegally convened meeting of the working committee has changed the BCCI constitution, and the legal from Delhi, Mr. Jaitley, who is the part of the legal trust of the board, said that it can be subsequently ratified at the appropriate level.
But Mr. Bindra, just to come back to this resignation question, apart from you, did anybody else also ask Mr. Srinivasan to resign?
Yeah, Mr. Shirke asked him to resign.
Mr. Shirke did ask him?
Yeah.
And did Mr. Jagdale ask him as well?
No, Mr. Not in so many words. He said that he will take a decision at the end of the meeting if he is satisfied with the result. The very fact he was not satisfied with his stepping aside means that he wanted something more than that, but he didn't specify his requirement.
Mr. Bindra, you said Mr. Jaitley has said this could be ratified subsequently at another meeting. That is Jagmohan Dalmia keeping a day-to-day eye on proceedings. Who all supported Mr. Srinivasan openly at the meeting?
Openly was the Delhi gang of 4 that's openly supported. Others were silent spectators, mute spectators.
I see. So the Delhi gang, which is basically, you mean Arun Jaitley, Rajiv Shukla and Anurag Thakur, were openly supporting him.
And Mr. Bansal was sitting with them without opening his mouth once.
Mr. who?
Mr. Bansal, Mr. S.K. Bansal.
Representing DDCA.
S.K. Bansal of DDCA.
Or S.K. Bansal, who's representing the Delhi District Association. He was sitting with them.
So, Mr. Bindra, would you say that this was a match fixed in Chennai? It was a foregone conclusion, the meeting, the result of the meeting?
I would say that it was worse than match fixing, because match fixing was cheating the public. It is taking the millions of Indian spectators who have made Indian cricket what it is today, taking them for a ride.
Mr. Bindra, you were saying that everybody else in the board, they may not have been supporting N. Srinivasan, but they were sitting quietly. No one spoke up.
They were all openly opposing one-to-one before the meeting, but they didn't have the guts to take on Mr. Jaitley and Rajiv Shukla.
What about Anil Kumble?
He spoke from London, said 3 sentences in generalities. He didn't say anything specific on the issue. And he spoke in the beginning, initially meeting. He was not on the video conference throughout the line. He was on the Skype on the laptop of Mr. Srinivasan.
And Mr. Bindra, who raised the issue of Mr. Dalmia taking over day-to-day affairs? How was that broached?
Mr. Jaitley raised it. He said either Mr. Dalmia or Mr. Shashank should be asked to take day-to-day decisions. And Srinivasan shot down Shishank's name, and then Mr. Dalmia and Mr. Rajiv Shukla said that in that case we should approve Mr. Dalmia, and Jaitley okayed it, and everyone kept quiet.
So, are you shocked? Are you disappointed?
I'm not shocked. I know this board too well to be shocked. I have ceased to getting this board
But you're
has stopped
disappointed.
stopping me. But I was most certainly disappointed. I thought we learn our lessons after the public outcry and loss of faith in the board.
Right.
But we did nothing of the sort. We did window dressing and that end of it.
So, Mr. Bindra, what you're saying is that the appointment of Mr. Dalmia was also in a way decided by Mr. N. Srinivasan?
It was a pre-arranged decision, and it seemed that they had already coordinated their every move, and it was not... I don't know whether it was Mr. Srinivasan who planned it or it was Delhi people who planned it, but somebody had coordinated it.
And the question of Mr. Jagmohan Dalmia, you said Arun Jaitley raised that. Was there any discussion among the meeting there as to what would happen day to day? Is Mr. Srinivasan, he's saying he will not discharge his duties, but will he be behind any of the decisions that Dalmia takes?
No, he says this will be ratified every week. Mr. Jaitley suggested when I said this is illegal, he says a working committee will ratify his decisions once a week on telephone.
Mr. Bindra, one last question. Will you go to court and challenge this decision?
I don't believe in going to court of law. I'll go to the court of public opinion and most certainly go.